Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Simply Growing Food Podcast. I'm your host, Dylan. Today I'm going to be talking about spring. It has sprung. It is March 29th, and things are coming to life. Particularly, I'm going to be talking about garlic and onions. I'm quite fond of both, and we are growing both. Our garlic is looking fine. So are the onions. I'm also going to be chatting a little bit about a local egg bandit and how many eggs we've produced the first quarter of 2025. It's crazy. Chatting a little bit about Tips for Tools, which is a local organization that helps raise money for high school kids going to Ellis Tech that need tools their freshman year for their trade. We're going to talk a little bit about that. And chestnuts. Yep, I planted some. That's what's coming up on the SGF. Stay tuned. All right, and welcome back to another episode of the Simply Growing Food Podcast. So, yeah, spring is here as far as I'm concerned. Our garlic out in the market garden is looking fine. We put in, I want to say, a little north of 1,100 cloves. I think it was about 1,100, maybe 1,200 cloves in the fall. Shout out to Gavin. He helped us plant those. We put in a variety. We actually put in two varieties. One of them was called, those of you who know garlic or growing garlic will know these varieties. It's called German Extra Hardy White Garlic, and it is fantastic stuff. Really nice plump cloves, great flavor. We also put in Chestnut Red, which is an old favorite of mine. That was the first variety of garlic I grew, was the Chestnut Red. It's not a red clove per se, but it does have red stripes on the outer paper of the garlic. It's a pretty looking garlic, as far as pretty looking roots go. But anyway, also has a great flavor, a little stronger on the sharpness of the garlic pungency. The Chestnut Red is, but a lot of people like that. So I did a little bit of research, getting right into it. I did a little bit of research here to kind of break down some of these questions we've been getting about garlic, about onions. I even threw in shallots because we grow them. No one's asked about them. It's a hard to find kind of crop, but when you have them, people want them. They're like, oh my God, give me some of that. So I cover a little bit of shallot action here, but let's get started with garlic. So I'm big into botanical names. The botanical name for garlic is Allium sativum, of course, and then whatever variety going forward, is going to be whatever one you pick in the name. And there are quite a bit of different garlic varieties out there, and I think people might get a little lost with the options, much like any other crop, You can grow white cucumbers, let's do it. Well, why? It's still going to taste like a cucumber, right? That's like botany, like really hobbyists. You're going to start growing exotic stuff like white cucumbers, and they have round cucumbers that are yellow. They call them lemon cukes. You eat them like an apple. They are cool. Getting off topic here. Okay. Allium sativum, garlic. Garlic in the Northeast, where we are, is best planted in the fall. Okay, most people are surprised to learn that, but you want to put it in between September and October. And if you've listened to some of our previous shows, you know that I've missed the mark with that a few years in a row. But we didn't miss the mark last fall. Our garlic seed came in. And when I say seed, it's not a little tiny pebble-looking object. Garlic seed, like potato seed, is garlic. It is a clove. It is a single clove of garlic, okay? A potato is just a potato with eyes on it. Eyes are the little sprouts that start to come off of the potato, okay? And we got potatoes coming in soon. I got the notification the other day that they shipped, so we'll have a whole episode about potato culture and stuff like that, so stay tuned. But anyway, garlic. One clove is the seed. Now, we're going to make it one step more confusing. If you let a garlic plant flower, it also does produce a seed. Okay? The flower itself will produce a small seed. Several thousand small seeds. But nonetheless, it gets confusing on some of the terminology, so I wanted to clear that up. So when I say garlic seed, I'm talking about the clove. You know, primarily people, when they say garlic seed, they're talking about the clove. You can get seeds like I'm talking about from garlic, but you won't be able to buy those commercially. That's just not what happens. You can eat them, that's for sure. You could also plant them. You know, it will just take you longer. It's like I saw someone was starting asparagus from seed. Hey, more power to you. That's like a 5-year project. Literally, asparagus from seed is like a 5-year project before you get any of it to eat. That's why you put them in as what's called crowns, like, you know, established roots, which we did a few years ago. So we'll have some asparagus this spring, not probably for sale, just for us to enjoy. We like it fresh out of the garden. I should check on that. I have not looked at the asparagus bed, but I'm sure it's coming to life. Anyway, getting off topic again. At least it's all about veggies. So garlic is unique in the fact that it has to go through this process called stratification, okay? You look this up, you look up garlic, every video is going to tell you about stratification, vernalization. They're effectively the same thing, but I'm not going to actually say that because someone will say something, because they are two different processes. Vernalization and stratification basically are the same process, but they have the same outcome basically. But I think the real difference is moisture, and you know, you can actually you can simulate stratification by throwing stuff in the fridge. So stratification is basically when plants need to go through a frozen or prolonged exposure to cold temperatures, winter temperatures, okay, in order to germinate, in order to get flipped into preservation mode or multiplication mode where they need to make more of themselves. You know, some plants are triggered to flower by lack of sunlight, right? So this is a similar process. These guys are triggered to multiply by prolonged freezing temperatures. Okay, so some plants and their exposure requirements to these cold temperatures are all different. Garlic needs a minimum of 6 to 8 weeks of prolonged cold exposure. Okay, before I get into hard neck and soft neck, let's finish the stratification here. So what stratification is? So basically, we plant it in the Northeast in the fall for 2 reasons. One, it needs to go through that period of cold. Now, you could put it in your fridge, freezer, whatever. No, we had too many cloves to do that with, I guess. We could have put them in the freezer, but, you know, we've grown garlic with a bunch of different methods, and quite honestly, the best and most effective is to put it in the ground in the fall as a clove in your bed, mulch them in, and let Mother Nature do the rest. Okay? Put them in some good compost. I'll feed them this spring. I've already been thinking about top dressing them with some freshly made compost and straw and just giving them a little bit more. But anyway, so stratification. Got to go through that. Not to be confused with another process called scarification, which is basically the outside of the seed needing to be cut, crushed, opened, rotted. It needs to fall away before the seed can be germinated. Now that might take, that's obviously going to vary, right? So that's interesting to think about. Acorns are one of those things, but like garlic, it's variety dependent. So I know white oaks don't need stratification, but like a red oak does. So that's a different topic. But anyway, garlic. You got 2 schools of thought here, and it really does depend on where you live, geographically speaking. So the old Allium sativum. You got hardneck varieties of garlic, and you have softneck varieties of garlic. Now, it's what that actually means is pretty much in the name. I mean, those of you who have grown garlic around here have probably grown hardneck. That's usually what people are growing. Hardneck refers to the fact that the main stem on the garlic is just harder. It has a hard interior, and the softneck varieties don't. I tried to braid our garlic one year, which did work, but because we use hardneck, it was very hard. I'm saying this a lot. It was a hard process to get our hardneck variety garlic braided, whereas a softneck variety, it doesn't have that central core to the stem that's super woody, so it's more braidable. So here's some main differences here. Hardneck, it needs to be stratified. It needs to go through the cold, whereas a softneck doesn't need to go through the cold. Some varieties don't. Stronger flavor with the hardneck, okay? And here's something else, right? As I was doing some research, I'm like, yeah, of course it has a stronger flavor, right? But a lot of times we'll hear that from people when they buy our garlic, like, oh, your garlic has such a stronger flavor. Now, a lot of people would attribute that to the fact that it's fresh and local, and that's probably true, but also it's because it's a hardneck variety garlic. Those types of garlic in the hardneck family have a stronger flavor than a softneck variety. Could be because they go through that process of stratification. I don't know. I know that some other crops sweeten, like Brussels sprouts. It's better if you let them go through a frost. It's better if you let some crops get exposed to the cold. It changes their flavor complexity. So, I mean, there could be something to that. Let's see, what else? Softneck, a little bit milder flavor. Softnecks don't produce a scape. Okay, now for those of you who don't know what a scape is the botanical term for the flower that comes from hardneck varieties, right? So softnecks don't produce a scape, hardnecks do. This is also what makes hardneck varieties obviously more versatile for the farmers, small-scale farmers, and even backyard hobbyists that want fresh food. You get two crops. Really, you get three. I'm going to talk about the foliage a little bit, but really, you get two crops out of hardneck. You get the root, the garlic, okay, and then you get the scape, which is the flower stem. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's like a little curly green stem with a very tiny flower bulb at the end of it. It comes out of the top of your garlic plant. And if you let that blossom, you're not going to get a decent size on your garlic, okay? It's not going to grow big because all those sugars are going up. They're not staying down, okay? So when you see the scape, what we do once you see the scape and it's at least 4 inches, we cut it off. Now, someone's probably going to say, you got to let it curl, you got to blah, 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 blah. Okay, whatever. Some of them do curl. Some of them get super curly. I miss them, you literally go through hand by hand, stem by stem with each hand. And you think you get them all, and then you inevitably will miss some. But they'll stand out the next day. They really will. So you'll get them. Something we like to do with the garlic scapes, I know a lot of people like to do, we make a pesto, because normally we'll have basil at the same time. We don't grow or harvest pine nuts, but we don't really grow those types of pines around here anyway that have a decent sized seed. I'm sure you could harvest them from white pines or Scotch pines or princess pines, all the pines in our wood, but they probably don't have a decent sized nut to eat. Not relevant. But yeah, so we make a garlic scape pesto, very good. And then you get the roots. So you get a double harvest on garlics. Now, sometimes I will cut some of the foliage, depending on how densely planted they are, okay, to allow more airflow in the crop. And the foliage is good too. It's super thin, but it's not like carrot foliage thin, which is disgusting. Sorry for those of you who like to make chutney with it. I don't understand. But yeah, garlic foliage great in a stir fry. It's super pungent. You're going to get that garlic flavor anyway. So we do eat that too. The whole plant is pretty much edible. Let's see here. I equate hardneck garlic kind of like heirloom tomatoes in the fact that there's kind of really nothing unique about it, but some of the varieties people will pay more for. We don't really do that. We just grow what works for us, and people just want fresh garlic. So, yeah. Let me see here. What else I got? Yeah, the duality of it. You get the scapes, the cloves, the foliage. Oh, yeah. People ask me, how do you grow black garlic? Black garlic is not a plant. Okay? There is no black garlic plant where the cloves are black. Okay? You see those pictures online, and that is from a cooking process. Really, it's a rotting process, but it's like a cooking and rotting process that turns it black. It's called the Maillard or Maillard reaction. If you want to do more research on that, you can check it out, but that's not a plant, okay? Don't ask us why we don't grow it. It doesn't exist. All right, moving on to onions. We grow a lot of onions, okay? Allium cepa. Allium cepa is a botanical. We grow, let me think, what are we growing this year? We're growing Patterson, which is a yellow onion, really good storage onion. We're also growing Red Wing, I think it's called. Oh, jeez, I should have it in front of me. Sorry. Yeah, I think it's called Red Wing, which is a red, obviously, onion. Not as good for storage as the Patterson yellow onion, but still very good flavor. People want red onions, so you got to do what the people want, of course. And we're experimenting with Walla Walla onions, which are a super large, like softball size onion. I'm guessing the ones they use in bloomin' onions at the fairs and such. And they don't have a great shelf life. So when those are ready, we're going to be really hustling to get them going. But not really. I mean, by that time, our commercial kitchen, which we'll be talking about in an upcoming episode with Cassidy, but our commercial kitchen hopefully will be all certified. We'll be cooking out of there, making salsas and all sorts of stuff. So our Walla Walla onions really won't go to waste or won't need to be rush sold. We'll get them sold. We'll get them eaten. That won't be a problem. And I bought in some leeks this year too, mainly for our stews and stuff that we make. But also, quite a few people have asked about them. So I brought in some started leek plants, and we'll probably be planting those this week. Never grown them before, but they're similar to an onion. I should have looked up the botanical for those, but I did not. It's probably allium. Well, it's definitely allium something. Let me just give that a quick Google. Botanical name. Yeah, here we go. Of course, it's got to be one I got to sound out before I know it. Here we go. Allium ampulloprazum. Ampulloprazum. Yeah. Allium ampulloprazum. Wild leek. Well, that's wild leek. Is that leek family name? Leeks. Oh, here we go. The surname Leek has two... Oh, here we go. No, we're getting off topic. No. Anyway, leeks. Leeks. Walla Walla onions. The Patterson yellow onion and the Red Wing red onion. Now, onions are basically a zone hardy perennial. Okay, you can plant them in the fall, you can plant them in early winter, you can plant them in the spring in our zone, in New England, okay? But most of them are zone hardy up to 3, and we're in a 6, so 3 is like Canada, basically. Parts of Canada. So you can plant them really whenever. I think your method does depend if you're going to go seed, if you're going to go set, or if you're going to go started plant. Normally we do seeds. I'm not a big fan of sets. And there is a difference between a set and a started plant, and I think it is the fact that the started plant is growing. Because I don't know, sets are weird. Sometimes when you buy sets at the big box stores, they're not they're not even labeled with like the variety. It'll just say like yellow onion, right? But if you have a short day onion and you're in a long day area, then they're not going to grow properly. Okay, so like garlic has hard neck and soft neck, onions have long day and short day varieties. Okay, we're in a long day area. We're in the Northeast, so we get an abundance of sunlight. We get more than 12 hours. So long day onions are like a 14 to 16 hours of sunlight needed. Short days are 10 to 12. Long day onions are good for the northern growers, which we are, and short day are better for the south. Okay, just the opposite basically. In long day onions, they say have a longer shelf life, but that is definitely variety dependent. And same with the short day onions. They say like they have a shorter shelf life, but I'm also going to say that's variety dependent, and of course storage conditions, right? And how you cure your onions and how you cure your garlic. So this is a super important process that I'm really going to dial in this season, curing your root crops before you put them into storage. You got to do it. You got to even do it with your winter squash. We did it with the winter squash, and we have one left. It's April next week. We have one left. We still have a couple onions left. We have no garlic. That stuff goes quick. And our harvest last year was abysmal. It was abysmal. Not happy. This year's going to be different, though. Our garlic's looking good. But anyway, so you got to cure these crops. And by curing, I mean you got to let them sit outside, not in direct sunlight, not in the rain. You got to let them sit outside in a covered space for a couple of weeks. Let the air get to them. They basically air dry, and it kind of just locks them in. Putting them in storage green, you do obviously run the risk of issues. Certainly don't want to put them in with any soil. You put anything in storage with soil on it still, you're going to have issues. Potatoes maybe being the exception, but you can't have clumps of soil no matter what. You might have a little bit of dirt that dries on a potato. You get away with that. That's fine. But you can't put anything in storage with soil still on it. Not a good idea. So, and to throw a curveball at the old Allium cepa, onion, there's an intermediate day, right? You got long day, you got short day, then you got intermediate day onions. You don't see a lot of these, at least I haven't in my travels of, buying seed, buying plants, all that stuff. Mainly you see long day and short day, but intermediate onions can be grown in both regions. So I did a little research on this too. So like if you grow a long day onion in a short day region, it will never form a bulb. Why? Because it's not getting enough sunlight to produce enough sugars, basically, or food to store. Now, if you think of an onion is the storage, is the battery, is like the storage battery of the whole plant. Like it's pumping each layer full of sugars for winter storage, if you want to think of it like that. We eat it, but you can let a whole onion sit in the ground over winter after the growing season, and it will come back. It'll grow again in the spring. It may get, I haven't done that. It may get bigger, but it's certainly going to hollow itself right out, I'd imagine, to grow. Because I know some onions in storage will hollow themselves out and start to germinate, start to sprout their green stalk. And they can only do that because they're full of, of food, of sugars, ready to go, plant sugars. But anyway, so onions, they don't need a stratification, scarification, no real process. They're a hardy, cold hardy perennial in most of the United States. Actually, in all of the United States. I don't think there's a zone 2. There might be. I don't think so. Anyway, long day, short day, intermediate day. We do long day. It works out good. And yes, we have braided onions in the past. Onions are a lot easier to braid if you dry them with the tops, which I think is probably the best way to do it, honestly, because there's probably plant sugars, in the foliage that ends up getting sucked down to the root through the curing process. So curing them with the foliage is probably ideal. And that goes for shallots too. The old Allium cepa variegatum. There we go. There we go. That is the old shallot. Alliums cepa variegatum. Okay. We grow those. We grow a variety called creme brulee. It's very fancy sounding. We do it from seed. Whereas this year we bought in a lot of our onion plants. Last year I got some onion plants off of Cassidy's dad. Planted them. Didn't have a lot of faith, but they did amazing. So we actually were able to save some money and buy plants in. Started plants, little baby onion plants, but we didn't do a lot from seed. We do have some from seed. The shallots are all from seed. But the leeks and the onions, primarily this season, are started plants we got in. So that'll be interesting. Let me see here. Shallots, yeah, are all long day for what I could find. I never even thought to look this up. But shallots are long day. And they're not grown commercially much because they do require a little bit more labor. I wrote down more money, more problems. That's not really, I guess. They do cost more money because they create more problems was kind of my thought on the labor front because they grow in clusters. It's not like an individual shallot. They grow multiple shallots in a little spot, so then you got to separate them. And I guess that's more labor, which it is. I get it. That's fine. Big ag, leave that crop alone. Let small guys like me specialize and grow them and sell them. That's no problem here. That's how it should be. And that's kind of how it is. You can't really find shallots in the grocery store. Some places and sometimes, but it's rare. And they have a complex flavor. They're somewhere in between a garlic and oniony vibe, flavor-wise. They're just good. We grew some last year. We ended up keeping all the ones we grew for ourselves. And sometimes that happens with crops. We just end up keeping them. But anyway, that's that. That's garlic and onions. All right. I'm going to throw chestnuts in here, this little segment, because, well, in the fall, we were selling some local chestnuts from a customer of ours that has a beautiful little chestnut grove here in town. These are like American chestnuts, not the Asian chestnut. And technically, they're considered extinct, but he's got a small microclimate going on, and they're thriving. And for the past couple of seasons, I've bought and sold them usually around Christmas time, and he does a great job. He cleans them, he stores them properly. He's trying to get more into it, maybe get a little greenhouse and start selling plants. But we had a couple of pounds of nuts left, and they were sitting in the cooler, and some of them started to germinate because chestnuts need to stratify. They need to go through the cold, apparently. Or they like it in the cold. So they started to germinate in the cooler in their bags, and I said, well, I guess it's time to plant them. So I put together a little bed, filled it with some compost, planted a couple hundred chestnut seeds, and we'll see how they do. They weren't all germinating, and apparently, if you know a chestnut, like some of them have a little tail on them. Only the ones with the little tail are technically fertile and have a chance to germinate. I believe that's true. I didn't double check that, but that's what I was told by our customer friend that grows them. Could be true. I don't know. Anyway, really cool. So we might have some chestnuts available, like plants, little chestnut trees available this summer/fall. Keep an eye out. Plant a native, right? Let's see, where do we want to go from here? I guess we'll go to eggs. Apparently there's a local egg snatcher taking eggs out of people's farm stands. Now, not like our farm stand, also because we're closed, but like, you drive around here, quiet corner, and everybody's got a little stand at the end of their driveway selling eggs, which is great. Don't get me wrong. But now, so sounds like someone caught them on a CCT, right? Yeah, on some CCT footage. Basically a friggin', what are those things called? Ring doorbell cam. This lady in a gray pickup, older lady, white hair, gray pickup, stealing eggs, man. They're stealing eggs because eggs are so valuable. It's friggin', what? And I'm not talking like they stole a dozen or two. They cleaned out some of these places. One of the posts I saw on the Brooklyn Residents page was all of the eggs were like stolen. So they had, I think, like they posted 10 or 12 dozen, all gone. The egg bandit is taking all of them. Something to watch. It's definitely something I'm going to keep an eye on. I think it's an interesting story. And you know what? They probably are just reselling them. They're probably reselling them at their stand, or maybe they're selling them to the co-op because, you know, like we were selling eggs to the co-op. And quite frankly, I don't even think we had to provide any kind of documentation that we were a licensed business. They were just like, oh, you got fresh eggs? Yeah, bring them in. And at the time, the co-op was paying us more than we were selling them for. So I can only imagine what they're paying for eggs right now. They didn't make a whole lot. They were paying us $5. They were reselling them for like $5.90. They really weren't making that much. I mean, ours were just like under local eggs. Ours weren't like organic. But whatever. Anyway, yeah. Egg Bandit strikes again. Cleaning up and taking them all. Keep an eye out, folks. Don't let your eggs fall victim to the Egg Bandit. Anyway. Eggs and chickens this year are outrageous. Everybody's got to have them. I mean, I understand, but I also don't. The chicken craze is ridiculous. The amount of baby chicks at the local feed store, I would name drop them, but I don't know if I should. The local feed store goes through is crazy. They're bringing in like 300 at a time and selling out in an hour. Baby chicks. They had ducklings this week. I was talking to the manager over there the other day. They had ducklings come in this week, only 30 of them. Almost $20 a piece for a duckling. Not even a sexed duckling. Like, it's straight run. Back to terminology, straight run means you don't know what it is. It's going to be a couple months before you figure out if those are a bunch of drakes or a bunch of hens. And let me tell you, drakes can be mean. You don't want a whole flock of boy ducks. No thanks. It's a weird group. I wonder if there is a term for a group of male ducks. Anyway. Yeah, so the egg craze is hopefully at its peak. The chick craze is hopefully at its peak. And it doesn't continue to progress from here. I hope we all slowly gain a little bit of sense of reality and realize that these are just chickens. It's just mind-blowing. I'm sure it's taking place all over the country. I would imagine the northeast corner of Connecticut is not a unique place for this to be occurring. As far as the chick craze go, I know the eggs have been all over the world, all over the country, but then I've seen stories like we're buying eggs in from like Turkey, we're buying eggs in from different countries in Europe. I'm like, geez, so that's probably what's bringing down the cost, because you really can't, unless you have starter flocks already ready to go, like ready to lay hens, replacing millions of chickens overnight is damn near impossible. So, my other thought is that maybe the USDA bought up all these hatcheries inventory, because if every hatchery that we've done business with, and I've even looked into ones we haven't bought from, but I did like a search for 10 different hatcheries the other day. Every single hatchery online is sold out of baby chicks through August. That's the first time I've ever seen that. And it's not like they don't all produce millions of baby chickens. Okay? So the chick craze at the local stores, the USDA possibly, they may have their own breeder farms. I'm sure they do. Actually, I shouldn't even say that. I'm not sure of anything with the government. But, that continues to morph. Egg prices are down almost 50% since the start of the year. I guess that is a good thing. I hope people are not still paying $12.99 a dozen, because that's robbery. Anyway, that's enough on eggs. It seems like every time I get on this freaking show, I talk about eggs. It's just such a hot topic. But, I did want to mention that as of right now, March 29th, we have collected roughly 560 dozen eggs. So our first quarter of 2025 with roughly 100 to 125 chickens. It's somewhere in there. It's like 120, maybe 115. I don't have an exact. Bad on me. Anyway, 560 dozen in the first 3 months, and that equates to 6,720 eggs. That's a lot of eggs. That's a lot of shell. Not bad. Not bad. I can't even complain. Like, production's a little lower daily than where I want it to be, but then when you look at the grand scheme of where the quarter puts you, you're like, okay, that's not bad. Maybe it should be a little closer to 600, 620 for amount of dozens, honestly. For the amount of chickens. I know production's a little low. It's not crazy low. It's not even like a big deal, clearly, because 560 dozen, can't complain. Now, I did some other math for the year, but you could do that on your own. Let me see here. 560 over 12. Oops. Yeah, that's 46 dozen. Oops. A week. Yeah, 46 dozen a week. 0.66666. So, almost 50 dozen a week on average. Can't complain. Can't complain. I'm going to replenish myself with a sip of our favorite coffee, Two Dogs Coffee. Roll tape. Guys, if you're anything like me, your day starts the same pretty much every day. You wake up, you drag yourself over to the coffee pot, and you begin to brew yourself that sweet elixir that's going to keep you going all day. Now, where we differ is what's in that coffee pot. We're not big fans of the big commercial coffee companies. The flavor's just not there. We're big fans of Two Dogs Coffee Company, and for the past 2 seasons, that's all we've been drinking. And I mean literally 2 seasons, 2 full years. Two Dogs Coffee is the only coffee that we brew. Artisanally roasted, fresh to order, and ethically sourced, Two Dogs Coffee is the only thing that we've been drinking here at the farm. This is not a paid advertisement, okay? I just like them over there. Brittany and Gwillem, they do great business, and they create such a good product. I can't put it down. I'm having some right now. I'm a big fan of their original Frank's blend. Brazilian and Colombian beans, and it's a medium roast. Hints of caramel, chocolate, some other stuff. It's coffee. Two Dogs Coffee. Get some. Oh, yeah. Okay. Plug over. Moving on. I'm going to, let me see here. What do I got in my notes? So, yeah, I'll close the show with this. I don't know, for all of our local listeners out there, if you are familiar with the organization called Tips for Tools. This is, I don't exactly know how you'd call it, but basically, it's like a scholarship that a local guy runs. It's called, so anyway, all right. So the program is called Tips for Tools. They specifically work with Ellis Technical High School, okay, here in the Quiet Corner, and what they do is they raise money for kids that need help affording their tools going into their shop picks freshman year. Okay, now, from what I've been told, tools can range, depending on your shop choice, anywhere between $500 to $1,500. Okay, I was pretty blown away when they were educating me on this process and all this stuff. And really what it takes to be at the technical high school. I think it's great. I did hear... All right, never mind. So, Tips for Tools. We met this gentleman that runs this organization, started this organization. He's an alumni of Ellis Tech. He's still in his trade, electrical, from what I gather. And he started this, I want to say about 10 years ago. Don't quote me. I went to look through the packet I have recently gotten from them, and I didn't have any of that information in there. But that's not on them. I should have asked them. Anyway, so we ran into him at some business conference thing and met him, and, we started talking. Basically, they were looking for people to read the essays that the kids submit. So as the kid, you have to submit an essay explaining why you're the right pick for them to give you tools. Now, I guess they pick like 10 kids. Every year they'll pick 10 kids, no matter how many entries I get. I don't think there's a percentage based on how many entries to how many they pick. But they pick 10 kids, and it's, obviously, random per se. It's all graded. So I signed up to be one of the people that reads all the essays. I think there's 7 of us, maybe 6 of us total. There was only 22 essays, which blows me away. If there's like 100 plus kids in the freshman class, you would imagine that every one of them would fill out one of these things to try to get some help. But hey, I don't work there. Just trying to spread the word of this program through the show and through the farm, but I think it's really great. So tips for tools. So you get this rubric as a person that grades them. You just got to read them and judge them or grade them based on this criteria, and then they make an accumulation of all the grades at the end, and then pick the winners. And I got to tell you, I read through these 22 essays in one sitting. They aren't that long. Most of them are about a one-page blurb about their life, and it's all personal information is redacted, so you don't know, boy, girl, what shop, blah, 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 no, family, none of that. It's just unbiased, 100%. This is my story. This is them putting their best foot forward to try to get some funding. So we read, I read them all with Cassidy. I kind of read them out loud. And they were really good. Most of them were really good. One of them just, really sad story. Really rough situation for this child, especially freshman year of high school. I can't even imagine some of the stuff that they're dealing with. So it was tough to read. It took me a couple attempts to get through it all. Some of what was in that essay, hit home, which makes it tough to even talk about right now. But these kids, some of them are going through absolute hell and could just use some help. They could use some help. So I think we'll probably do a fundraiser for this organization. I love their what their mission is to help freshmen get the tools they need to succeed in life. My dad is a graduate of Ellis, and then he was a teacher at Ellis, and he was still a Mason to this day. So, and I know a lot of people like him. So getting into a school like that and being able to learn a craft that's going to take you through your entire life, it's not like any other high school, and that needs to be recognized. Tech schools, we need you. We need you. So, yeah, tips for tools, guys. If you're out there, you want to help out some local kids in need, become the true craftsmen they're meant to be, or craftswomen, then check them out. Find them online. I'm sure you can reach out to the owner there, or he's the owner, Tips for Tools, and find out how you can help out. Now, they also raise money through what's called Guest Bartender Night at the Golden Greek Restaurant and Pub. That's going to be taking place this October 17th from 5 to 9. Eat and drink with games and raffles throughout the night. I'm reading this off the sheet. KBA, which is the Kinley Business Administration or Association. Sorry if I don't know properly. Members, businesses, Ellis Tech alumni, and teachers will be behind the bar for the event. All tips raised to benefit technical high school freshmen. Okay, so that's cool. They've been trying to get my dad and a couple other like well-known teachers to do the guest bartending. Maybe, truth be told, they asked me to grade these papers. I mean, I volunteered to grade the papers, but they kept me in mind. Probably because they're still trying to get my dad to go guest bartend. So maybe we'll go ourselves this fall, October 17th. It's a Thursday night. And again, all the tips are going to this program to help out freshmen at the local technical high school. So tips for tools, October 17th this year at the Golden Greek Restaurant in Dayville. Okay, I think that's going to do it for this episode of the Simply Growing Food Podcast. I hope that you found it informational, educational, and if not, that's just a shame. Bye-bye.